Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Am I shining through fire? Can you see me?
Absolutely. I can see you loud and clear, hear you loud and clear, and see you equally clear. How about myself? How's that coming?
Excellent. Well, that is a busy background.
It is. My wife and I practice what I think is called on the internet maximalism, which is just basically we fill our house with a bunch of little trinkets and stuff. And it's not for everybody, but it's definitely for us. It's just all the little nerdy things that we've enjoyed growing up.
Are those creatures from different games, like
so all
Dragons?
of these up here, this is all Dragon Ball, which is it's an anime that I watched growing up, and these are all characters. They're all amiibos from the Super Smash Brothers games, so it's all Nintendo characters and stuff like that. And then this is Bob's Burgers, and I don't know what else my wife had. This is all her stuff, band merch and things like that. So
This looks cool.
appreciate that.
So thank you, first of all, for doing this.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
I really do appreciate it, and I know Aaron will too.
Yeah, Aaron, I attribute this whole experience to Aaron. Obviously, he's the one who set it up. I'm very thankful to him for even inviting me to do this. So yeah, but we can get into that in the actual.
Indeed, we will. So let's freewheel a little bit here, and as much as I do want to get into the 7-day plays, I really would like to know first of all about you.
Okay.
So can you tell me a little bit about your background? This is the first time I've met you, was there.
Yeah.
And so you're fairly new to me. Where are you from, and how did you get involved in theater, and what's going on here?
All good questions. And I listened to some of your other podcasts today, just so I could prep for this a little bit. So I had an idea that this was coming. So, honestly, I think it goes back to, I did some acting in high school. Prior to that, I did this. There was a program in New Hampshire. I'm from Windham, New Hampshire. Grew up there. That's, my whole life I was there until I went to college in Fitchburg, Mass. And then I moved to Haverhill for a little bit. And right now I'm currently residing in Manchester, New Hampshire. But in elementary school, there was this program called Odyssey of the Mind, which I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a youth program where kids are given a challenge or a problem that they have to work on for, I think it's like 2 to 3 months. And a portion of that is a skit that you have to write yourself, create like a little props and everything for it. And I think it was during that portion that I really kind of fell in love with the idea of like being up in front of people and performing for them. And I did some plays in high school, and then I got to college, and I was never I didn't pursue it professionally or anything like that. I didn't go to school for theater. I went for video production. But in college, I went to I went to one single theater meeting or like a theater guild thing. And everyone there was really intense and really into it. And I was like, I think I'm going to take a step back and just focus on the video production side of things for now. But when I got out of college, Windham Actors Guild was, I believe they were just starting up, and they had already done, this was in 2011, 2012, I think, and they had done Windham on Broadway, and they were then doing their first actual play, which was Arsenic and Old Lace, and they were having trouble casting it. And I don't know if it was my father knew somebody in it or he was familiar with people on the board, but they asked him to ask me to go try out. And I did, and I got Mortimer, which was like my first lead that I've ever really had, and arguably my only lead I've ever really had, which was a lot of fun. And so then I did a couple of things so this was 2011, did a couple of things with WAG, and through everything that I have found in New Hampshire has been just series of meeting people and being connected. So through Windham Actors Guild, I did Music Man, then Odd Couple. And then in that I met Jack. And through that, he asked me to do a show at the Majestic, which I then did. And then the people I met at that show asked me to do a show with Lemia Theater, who I work predominantly with at this point. So,
you do their dinner theaters there with them?
I do their dinner theaters. Yeah, I've done several there. I did a Murder Country Style, Death by Dessert, Contempt of Court, several of them. I was in Clue with them.
They're crazy popular down there. Mo and all those. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you've heard. Actually, I listened to the Mo one today, which was 2 hours long, and I was like, "Wow, Mo can talk. She knows her stuff. She's very impressive." But we do the Tupelo shows there, which is it's like a dream venue to be in. Like you get your own backstages, and then you're on a stage performing for 400 to 500 people if we sell it out, which they do very often.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun. Like, I don't normally like audience interaction in terms of like going out pre-show as your character, and a lot of dinner theater does that. But at Tupelo, I love it because there's just so many people, and that energy is just electric. It's a lot of fun.
Still do a lot of the Italian ones.
I did one. Death by Dessert was an Italian one.
Okay.
And they've done a couple others. I think I haven't been in every single one. I took a little break between like 2018 and. I took 2019 off. I was going to come back, and then COVID hit, so I really wasn't able to do much. But also in here at some point, Greg Parker works a lot with LMAT, or he did a while ago. He still does, and he connected me with Gary Locke. I did Invasion from Mars with Gary, and then Government Inspector. And Government Inspector, we're all leading this as a timeline. Government Inspector, I worked opposite of Aaron. And it was after that Aaron invited me to the 7-day plays, which has been awesome. So, and that is kind of like a rough timeline.
Very well connected.
I try. I feel like I don't do much. I'm pretty narrow in terms of like the groups that I've worked with. Pretty much what I just listed there is where I am, and I really want to start branching out more. So, like doing the 7 days plays was great, and then also like Government Inspector, like I'm just meeting a whole bunch of new people, and this is a really fun time for that, I found.
So you really didn't do anything even up through college, theater-wise.
Correct.
So this is all. How long? When did you get out of college? May I ask?
I graduated in 09, 010. Technically, I walked in 09, but I didn't get my diploma until 010 just because of the way credits worked out and whatnot. So around there, and then I started up again. I really in 2011 with WAG a little bit, but I've really only done 1 or 2 shows a year since then. So it's pretty slow. I know some people are just like workhorses and they just don't stop, and I have a massive amount of respect.
That's
for them.
not a workhorse. That's an addiction.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a good point.
So you have great comedic timing.
Thank you.
Is that natural? Because if you haven't been hammering away on stage, I mean, it was just crazy good to watch you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, that yes, I think that I have not really ever I've never taken an acting class. I've never like been formally trained in any way. I think what I credit a lot of it to is just, the group of friends that I had growing up, all we would do is just hang out, playing video games and just trying to make each other laugh. And we watched a lot of like 90s sitcoms. So like it was really into like that 70s show and shows around that area. And like I've found talking to my wife, apparently I've emulated a lot of those styles of deliveries and whatnot. And I don't know if this is like a common thought, but the way I view like most sitcoms and TVs is they're just like 20-minute plays that are being put on weekly for people. And that's kind of like the attitude that I bring to a lot of my performances and the energy that I like to bring. So like I said, never really been officially trained or anything. So it's just a matter of making jokes, and it's fun.
It shows on stage. You're very animated. You're very big. No, I don't mean physically. I mean,
well, that too, and that's okay.
I'm not going there.
It's okay. No, but like that's something where like it's something that I'm aware of, and it's almost like a not a stereotype that I can play into, but I am pretty limber. I can move around. I'm not afraid to roll on the ground or whatnot. And
apparently not.
I think there's like I fought a teddy bear. I think there's a dichotomy.
And lost, I might add.
Yeah, twice. That thing beat me up twice. It's 2 different people. Having like the dichotomy of seeing like a relatively larger person to be that physical is, I think, unique and fun. And I was doing a show called Contempt of Court with Lemia Theater, and this is like the best compliment I've ever received. We were in it. I play a character who gets progressively drunk throughout the thing. And so I'm just, falling down and I'm moving around and I'm just like kind of in my own little world. And at the end, somebody came up to me and said, I watched Chris Farley be reincarnated on stage tonight. And I was like, that is way too much high of praise, but it made me feel really good.
Praise.
And I have carried it with me forever. So
yeah, badge of honor, baby.
Absolutely.
Badge of honor. You said you majored in video. Is that
correct? Yeah, I majored in film production, so with an emphasis on the behind the scenes stuff. So directing, editing, a little bit of like lighting and cinematography. Very light on that. Not to the point where I want to try and light any sort of play productions, but yeah, it was I would act occasionally if we needed, because we needed people in our little group to do the acting, but nothing elaborate in terms of acting. So yes.
You would you consider yourself a video geek? Are you do you do editing and all that?
I do actually for my job. So I work for a medical manufacturing company and a medical device manufacturing company, and I am their e-learning developer. So I do a lot with product breakdowns, how things work, and I'm constantly shooting videos for those and then editing them so we can have, customer facing. I sound like I'm talking, I don't like this. I'm talking corporate speak.
It's okay.
But it's a lot of video editing and a lot of fun stuff like that. So it's nice. It's really cool to be using my degree, because a lot of the people I went to school with are either in LA doing like cutting trailers. I know a couple people who are doing like cinematography out there, but a lot of it is just people who are like, they tried it and then it didn't work out for them. So I'm happy that I'm using my degree, even if it's not like, the goal was to get to LA and make movies, but I'm very happy with being back home.
So passion wise, where's your passion lie here? Are you passionately an actor, or do you just like the mechanical stuff? Where you lie there?
Absolutely. Right now it's definitely acting. I'm always, I've written a couple of like short screenplays and things like that. So I always like that part of the creative process. I enjoy
time out. Did you just drop on me that you've written a couple of screenplays?
No, shorts, not screenplays, shorts. I've never written a full screenplay, just like short, like 10-minute things, like nothing that's, and I've done a couple, this is kind of in the 7-day plays. I've done a couple, in college, we called them 5-day film festivals.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a couple of those actually, or this was about 10 years ago, but I did a few in Massachusetts. I don't remember the name of the company that they were with, but so I've done things like that, and you have to write really quickly for those as well. So I've done small things with that, but that's kind of where my passion is that creative side. I really like coming up with ideas and working out those problems of like, what does the character do next and all that fun stuff. But in terms of like me being seen, it's definitely been the acting reason. So
okay, so we've gone from film and acting now to writing and acting. Do you have a preference there? Do you sound like you really enjoy writing?
I definitely do, but it's something that I don't exercise nearly enough. I've found that I tend to come up with an idea and I'll write something, and then write an outline or something like that, and then it'll just sit. Like I have a folder just full of ideas that I have not fleshed out, as I'm sure many people do. The one that I'm working on right now, I wrote like 2 years ago, and it's something that I've just been like, it's been percolating in the back of my head, and I really want to get that out just so I can create something. So, but right now it's really been the like film is always like in the back of my mind, but have been enjoying the play stuff.
All right, let's geek out for a second. What are you using for a microphone there?
Right here, I believe this is an NT. I want to say it's a NT1A, if I'm not mistaken. I've done podcasting on the side as well. My wife and my friend we have a podcast called No Refunds.
Look at you dropping breadcrumbs here.
Yeah, the things you learn when you have a conversation. So that's part of the reason why I have a semi decent microphone setup. And I did like Twitch streaming over the pandemic as well, so I got this for that, or the connection to the PC and everything.
Is that a Shure microphone, or is that you said
it's a Rode? Okay. It's a Rode. It's a Rode. I want to say it's an NT7 or it's NT1. Off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Do you, in your video editing, which software do you use? Have you migrated to DaVinci yet, or are you?
I have not. I've been using Premiere for close to 20 years at this point. Wow. So that's what I'm comfortable in that ecosystem. I'm comfortable with like the Photoshop or the After Effects side of it as well. And so I just have stayed in there. I understand DaVinci's free though, or if I'm not mistaken,
they have a huge free version. Huge.
Yeah, I really need to, at some point I need to like take like a week and just sit there and like work on that, because I think that would probably, anything free is always a good idea. I was using like GIMP for a little while there, like the free version of Photoshop, and I never really mess around with it. I know Blender also exists. There's a bunch of really cool options out there. So
okay. All right. So thank you for all that.
You're welcome. Anytime.
So you bump into Aaron somewhere in this. We
literally bumped into each other multiple times during the show. I don't know if you caught Government Inspector, but there was a lot of.
I was pretty sure I did see it. It was at the Hatbox, right?
Yeah, it was at the Hatbox. We were Bob Chinsky and Dob Chinsky, and we were rolling all over each other constantly on that. And one of our signature moves was just pressing our two bellies together and just, I don't know, just being goofy for the audience. And it worked out pretty well. We got a lot of laughs.
So you get invited to the 7-day, here we are migrating now.
Yeah.
You get invited to the 7-day plays, and you had the closest thing you had done to that before was a 5-day film. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 5-day film festival. So very similar in structure to this, where it's you're given a prompt, we were given a genre and a character that you had to use for those. So then you have 5 days to write, shoot, edit, and deliver a film. So very similar idea to this in style. Anything
before you, as you were jumping in initially, that you hesitated about? Was there anything in the back of your mind like, oh, what am I getting deep here? What happened?
That's a good question. Yes, absolutely. So first of all, just the sheer talent of everybody else in this was unbelievably intimidating. I've seen a lot of these people work. I know who they are. They don't know me. And it's just one of those, I am hoping that I can come in and be and match that caliber of what everyone is. And I was just, you can ask my wife, I was bouncing back and forth between just elated that I was even being asked to being oh, I'm going to drag everybody down. This is going to be the worst. I'm going to be an albatross to everybody here. And like I said, it would be whiplash back and forth between those two. And then when I got there, I was so excited and everything. And then I don't know why I hadn't even thought about this, but obviously with the amount of actors we had, there was definitely going to only be certain ones that were only 2 people. Yeah. And as soon as I found that out, I was deathly afraid, because I can remember lines, but I'm not the best at it. Especially in a small amount of time. If you give me a month, I would have been stellar. On this one, I got there. And that's to the credit of Greg Parker and how he wrote ours. But if I had to do the one that Gary had written, I don't know what I would have done for that. I would have been a complete just deer in headlights, I think. But
I'm with you, brother.
Those are the things that I was nervous about.
I sat there watching Ian do that. It was just about a monologue. I mean,
yeah, basically.
Good grief.
It was crazy good. It was impressive. And same thing with Kelsey, who came in at the last minute I know she was on book for some of it, but she was less than 48 hours, and she had that whole end monologue perfect. It was one of the more emotional sequences in this entire day, and it was super impressive. So
I'm with you on that. I cannot believe she did that. I mean, anybody, we all would have accepted if she just stayed on book, but
absolutely.
She didn't, and I can't. And if she was nervous at all, there was nothing showing. Even backstage, she's just happy go lucky. Not even. I never saw her pace. I never saw her looking over a script. Nothing. Yep.
And that's what I mean by when I'm talking about just the caliber of the people that Aaron handpicked. Basically, I know Kelsey wasn't a part of the original group, but I think that was because she was running up really close with her last show, She Kills Monsters. So she wanted to take a little bit of a break. That's what she was saying. But it's just the talent pool was. I was in awe of it and just very nervous about that. Like I said, because I appreciate the kind words you said earlier about comedic timing and whatnot. And it's in the back of my head, I know that I can I can get to where those other people are, but I just haven't done as much. So I just feel I need to prove myself. And I felt like this was a good opportunity.
It was a wonderful opportunity. You did really, really well. I
appreciate that.
I laughed over and over. And it's funny because I got a chance to see the tech, and of course, you're skipping through the tech pretty much, and so it was so great to see it live and in up front and in person. It was so and here you are. Val was great, but
yes,
your biggest opponent here was the Bear. And
absolutely. Val was there was a point where she pulled Greg over and was like, did you not like me? And Greg's like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you gave Dwight all the fun things to do, and I had to play, because she was just the straight woman. She was the she was the rock of everything, and I got to be. I ended up playing 5, if you count the voiceover. I played 5 roles, which was a very fun acting challenge, to the point where, as you know, the structure of the the 7 days was at the beginning. When we got assigned to our the playwright, we had an interview with them, and I've worked with Greg in the past, and I've actually worked with Val. I worked with her and Government Inspector, so we all kind of knew each other, which was nice. And Greg asked us, he's like, "Is there anything you guys don't really like to do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not the best at a lot of voices," and so he wrote me 5 characters with different voices, and we got there, but it was just like you could tell he was doing this just to mess with us, and I think it made something really fun. But
it was hysterical. It was hysterical. And I'm so glad they started the day with that show.
Yes. Either the first or the last show that went, I think that those were the correct. I think Aaron nailed the order with like a comedy sandwich, basically. So
yeah,
I'm happy we got to go first. I'm really happy we got to go first because then we could just watch the shows. I think like having that not advantage, but just like we were done and I could just sit back and relax and enjoy the rest of the theater. And all 3 of the shows that went after us were excellent.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed every single one. There was not a bad moment in
I agree.
show.
I agree. And then the wonderful thing about Aaron picking your show, and I told him this as well, but it set the tone, it set the pace for the day. And the way it had been written and opened and all of that, the audience was with it right away. They bought in right away, and they were just there for the rest of the day for the ride. It really set a great tone for the day, and they just accepted everything else that came after it.
Yeah, when you're opening up on just a bear with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, that is just an absurdist image that you're like, all right, this is what we're in for with the 7-day plays.
Yeah, and then once the voiceover started, it was done. It was sold.
To the point where people were. I was talking to my mom afterwards, and she was like, "I didn't even know that was you until after." And like I had to tell her that it was me. Like people did not recognize that it was me, which is interesting and funny. So I don't know. Little anecdote.
Day one is the day that there's no scripts yet. We don't even know anything about props. We don't know. I didn't know you, and I knew a couple of other people there. We all show up. As you look around the room, I mean, the actors literally were picked by playing cards.
Yeah, can't get more random than that. That part was the part that I felt the safest, but at the same time, I was really nervous. So like I said, I did not want to do a 2-person one. And we get there, and Val was automatically sorted into a 2-person one just based on her time slot. And then Ian picked first, I believe, and Ian got one of the 2 people plays. And so in my mind, I'm like, my odds are amazing. There's no way that I'm going to end up in a 2-person show. I picked third, and I picked that red card, and I was like, all right, here we go. This is it. So like that was a moment where I was just like, oh no, what is going to happen? But then when we got to the prop portion and Greg picked the bear, oof, that it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders.
Did you talk to him at all about, because obviously for anybody who is listening doesn't know, the prop table was just unveiled at like the last minute so that nobody had any preconceived ideas. Did you talk to him at all about choosing the bear?
Nope, not at all. It was he walked up there, and I think he knew right away. Is that because he picked with confidence, and he even said when he picked it, he's like, now I'm writing for 3 people. So I think that he had an idea that was what he wanted to do as soon as he saw the bear. But I didn't talk to him about it. He did say that he was thinking about doing a noir, like coming into it. So I know that much was pre-planned as you can get with coming into this, but a genre is not like a set in stone plan.
Yeah. So you get paired up with Val, which you said you had worked with her before.
Yeah, I had worked with her a couple months earlier.
So you were very comfortable at that point. That a little bit of relief settling in.
Absolutely.
And now you're with Greg. There's still no play written at this point. So each of us had gone through, I assume, because I know we did on ours, an interview kind of. So how did Greg handle that interview with you guys?
I think he handled it very, because he was familiar with us. I think it was a very loose and informal version, because it was just really like asking us questions in terms of like, is there any like aversions, like food or things like that we would not want, just in case it comes up. And then like if we had any special like skills or things that we enjoyed doing. So like I said no voices, and I ended up with voices. But it was really like, I've known Greg at this point for coming up on a decade, I would say maybe like 8 years. I've worked with him for a while. So I think that he knows me pretty well. He's directed me before. So I think that there was a lot of like, he wrote to my strengths. So there was, the interview itself was pretty quick, even though we were one of the last ones out. I know Gary was out of there pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
Peter didn't hang around long either.
Yeah. So I don't know. How did your interview go? Was it similar or? So
Peter is very cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked with Kapow a lot, and he's very, very cerebral as opposed to me. And it was really the interview as opposed to the end result is just fascinating because he interviewed us, asked us questions. What do we like to do? What do we like? Because Deirdre and I had worked with each other. Jen and I had worked with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked each of us individually, you know, what do we like? What do we do? And he took it and he was very upbeat, very happy, and then we get his script and Deirdre's giving birth to a hat. And there's all these.
That's as cerebral as it gets, really.
There's all these built-in metaphors and allegories.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just out there.
To do that in under 24 hours and then to see those come to life in a week was insanely fascinating to me. It just like, because that is such a, I feel like yours was easily the most ambitious out of all of them in that sense of like, what we're presenting is the most, like you're saying, cerebral and just abstract, which is always a risk, especially when you're going, there's no way you can know that you're going up like with classic plays, like, you know, standard characters talking, but it was really, really cool to see how it works. And my wife and I keep on bringing her up, but apologies. We're currently expecting actually our first child. So yours affected me on a much more raw and emotional level, just in terms of like bringing all of my current fears up to the surface. And like, oh no, this is not what I want to be watching right now. But it ends with like, you know, there's like there's hope in there as well. But it's, that was a rough one for me to watch, but it was really good.
It was so, I don't want to say deep, but we literally up to the last day were still peeling layers of things that he had buried in there. I can't imagine if you had a month or two to really get into that because my gosh, it was just, we kept thinking, what does he mean by this? You know, what do you think's going on here? You know,
did you contact him at all and ask him for clarification, or did you?
We did not. We I don't know if Brian had much contact with him. He may have had some, but it was very minuscule. So we were just literally going off of just gut feeling of what he was trying to interpret, which was really great because not knowing if any of that was what he wanted, we got to talk to him later, and he was just out of the world with how it went. He loved it.
That's awesome. I was going to ask what his response was, because that's always like not a fear, but I could see like if it wasn't interpreted in. Like I can see someone being upset with like this interpretation, or not your interpretation per se, but just an interpretation of something. That's it's a fragile thing, I think, for a writer to take something personal. It felt like a very personal story and put that out into the world, and let other people mold it into their own. That just strikes me as like I said,
we were deeply concerned. I mean, and I had said to somebody else at one point, I said, you know, in the wrong hands, this play could go very badly.
Absolutely.
Very badly.
I don't know how I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like personally, kudos to everybody who was involved with yours. It was just fantastic.
So thanks.
Welcome.
But this is not about me. So,
I'm curious too, though. So,
well, if you have any questions, feel free periodically to jump in here. So you begin rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that happened in that play. Not just the bear. I don't know who thought of the cigar butt idea.
That's actually in the script.
It is.
Yeah, it's in the script. On the cover page, it says at the bottom, there's like a little asterisk, and it says, all of Dwight's characters should be chain smoking, and if at all possible, the stage should be covered in cigarette butts by the end of the play. And we did that to the best of our ability. I didn't actually work with the cigarette butts until live. I had them. I had like two that I would like occasionally mess with during rehearsal, but we didn't want to deal with having to clean up the hall every single time. So I didn't actually use them. And I found I got such a good reaction when I was just pitching them. Like I wasn't even trying to hide them at a certain point. I was just throwing them and the audience was loving it. So I was like, all right, this is what we're doing. And it worked well.
So funny. It just looked like there were so many coming out. It just like he was shedding filters from cigarettes,
I think we missed a few when we were cleaning up because I think that there was like at least one still on stage for the rest of the show.
Andrew will find you and let you know.
Oh, I'm sure he will. Absolutely. Most of them had the tobacco taken out of them, I think. Laura, our director, Laura Hoagland, she is the one who prepped everything. So
you don't find out. So the script gets written, you get it Sunday night-ish. And did you know at that point who your director was?
No, I didn't know until I received the script. So I knew obviously it was only going to be one of two people. It was either going to be Mary or Laura. Mm-hmm. Both of which I've worked with before. So I was excited no matter what. Mary, I worked with in Arsenic and Old Lace. She was one of the aunts. And Laura, I just came off of, she was also in Government Inspector with me. And then she was backstage for the last show that I did. So I've worked with Laura very recently. And so no matter who that it was going to be, I was excited because I knew that we've worked together and we know each other's styles. And I was talking with Laura prior to everything going down in general. And she said something along the lines of, she's like, as a first-time director, she's like, I'm just excited because we're not gonna have to do much because look at these actors. They're all gonna they're gonna come in and you just say go, and they do. But Laura was excellent. We came in and she had the blocking. She knew where she wanted us to go. She knew what she wanted us to do. The only thing we didn't work out right away was the fights. That was kind of just a Dwight fights with the bear. But where we were all standing, it was she was, for a first-time director, she had a real grasp of what was going on. So, and I attribute that to just years being in theater. But so that was.
I'm going to insert a question / issue. So not issue. That's a terrible word for it. Stylistically, how do you feel your acting style and creativity is, and how did that fit with Laura as a director? And I want to preface that by saying there are some directors who are crazy, maniacally micro hands-on. I mean, they want you to take 2 steps, turn left, 2 breaths, and blink.
Yep.
And then there are others who are just like, look, we have a framework. Let me see what you can do, and we'll tweak it from there. So on that spectrum, where do you find yourself? What style do you like, and how did that work with Laura?
So my style is, by the end, it's basically I'm a wrecking ball. I try to learn the script as well as possible and get that, a solid core of that. And then once the script is out of my hand, I really like to tweak things or add things or like mess with the delivery, or I'll occasionally add like a under the breath line or something like that. Things that I, in my own mind, are punching it up or whatnot. And Laura, Laura worked with me in Clue actually as well. And so there was a lot of leeway for that type of like freewheeling stuff. There was many times I've actually I've been on stage next to Laura and just having those like little side conversations that, actors do to fill time, or so it looks like you're still engaged. And so Laura, I think, knew my style for that. So she gave me and Val a lot of freedom in terms of like how our characters carry themselves and where we go. If for my big maniacal speech at the end, she wasn't very walk here and then walk here, then walk here. She kind of like let us know where we needed to be. And then when I started speaking, I kind of took command of the stage or just kind of traveled, because there's nothing I hate more in personally than just like standing there and talking. I have to be, if I can tie my lines to a movement, I can remember it better, and that helps. So that was style fit really well, I feel, with how Laura set us up.
I understand she's very, very prepared. Is that?
She absolutely was. Like I said, she knew she had the exact like voice that she wanted. The only character voice that she was very specific with was the detective. And she knew what she wanted for that. Because I came in with I was doing basically like a Will Arnett impression where he gets really like gravelly and is like an over the top style detective. And she was like, no, we're gonna reel that back. And she went with more of a Sam Spade. So I had to learn who Sam Spade was, listen to some of his stuff.
You youngsters, you crack me up.
I know who Humphrey Bogart is, but I just don't know the character of Sam Spade. So I learned that. And she was for the recording of the lines. So as you know, we were allowed one dark night during rehearsal. So we took ours Wednesday, but it wasn't really a dark night because Laura and I got on a Zoom call and we recorded the voiceover at that point. And so she was there with me during that and, giving me like, if I said there was certain inflections that she was looking for, or there was a couple of times where I got a little too sing-songy because just as you're talking over and over and over again, you want to give it that sort of acting inflection. But with Sam, with Teddy, he was very monotone the entire time. So, but she was great.
You go through your first rehearsal, obviously you're on book, and then the week progresses rapidly, as it turns out. Doesn't seem like it at first, but
yeah, it flew by. Like by the time Thursday was here, I was like, I can't believe we only have one more rehearsal after this. It was shocking.
Yeah. Did you find the process? We found ours to be very collaborative, where I was enamored. We had a beautiful cast. Everyone did. But it was just speaking for us, a charm to work with these people who were all thinking. They were all creative, and no one was overriding anybody else. But there was this talk about what's going. Of course, ours being Peter's play, it's a little bit more than a teddy bear,
yes,
a cigarette,
yeah.
But there was a lot going on and a lot of input and back and forth. And again, we kind of were peeling things back literally every rehearsal. How did yours go? Was it a collaborative event as well, or was it pretty much just?
It definitely was collaborative. A lot of it was on the page. A lot of the finding the characters and whatnot, that kind of came out through a collaborative process where like Val started off and she was just very very straight. But as she went on, she found the more sultry and the more like femme fatale style. So that was like talking to each other and like letting our characters kind of build off of each other. And a good example would be my second character that I play. Third. It's hard to keep track. The farmer, Ned the farmer.
Hysterical, by the way.
Yes. Oh, he was my favorite.
Open your mouth. Oh my God.
That was the moment. That was that's my favorite moment in the show. And the moment I knew I had something good with him was when we were doing tech. And so Greg, who wrote ours, was also doing all the tech for everything. And I opened my mouth and I said my first, "How y'all doing?" And I just heard him start cackling in the booth. And I was like, that's nailed it. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
But Ned was very, country bumpkin, just oblivious farmer, not knowing really what's going on. But Val decided that I reek. And so that was something where like I would start to like walk towards her and then she would walk away. And like that level of collaboration is some of my favorite in shows.
Yeah, that was great. You guys really had a challenge in that most people don't think of it this way, but you had to portray caricatures. Mm-hmm. These are because you needed to show people these typical mobster, Val, the femme fatale,
Yeah, we were playing the archetypes as broadly as we could, really.
Yeah.
Which is something you kind of have to do in 20 minutes. 20 minutes where there's so much going on. Like this was a full movie condensed into 20 minutes. So yeah, like having to go broad with that and having to like nail those archetypes. The only person that I felt like was a character was my last one where I came out and it was just my normal voice and kind of calm people down and whatnot. That was the only person I think that actually lived outside of the play. Everyone else was just a cartoon. Which I'm good at playing. I tend to do cartoon characters anyways.
Did you end up having to wrestle the bear in the rehearsals, or was that?
I did a couple of times. I still have the rug burns from it. I wore shorts and a short sleeve shirt, which I should not have done for those rehearsals. Because that carpeting was unforgiving. I really only did it Thursday and Friday, which was just kind of figuring it out. I didn't figure out there's a moment at the very, it's kind of like the big climax of the fight where the bear leaps into the air and then it just slams down on me.
I was going to ask you about that.
I did not figure. I found that on Friday, and it was a total accident. I was, really just kind of stumbling back and forth, like punching the bear, making the bear choke me. And I was like, I have to do something else with this. And I just threw him up. And he is just weighted perfectly where he goes up and then his butt just is the first thing that comes down. And I threw him up and I was like, if I just stand under him, and it just, I down like a sack of flour.
It was so pro wrestling. It was so cool. I could see him coming off the ropes. I thought, that is brilliant.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
Brilliant. Kudos to you guys for that one.
Thank you. It worked out really well.
Were there any challenges? Now, your production came across just as though it was just easy peasy. But were there any real challenges for you and the other people involved that you're like, how is this going to translate, or how do we accomplish this?
I can't speak for Val. I believe she was, it took her a little while, I think, to like find something that she was happy with. But that's a question for her. I'm not off the top of my head. I'm not sure. For myself, the character Ian, who only has 4 lines, but that was one of the harder ones to figure out because he's a mobster, but we're in London. So what are we supposed to do for like an accent here? How is he supposed to carry himself? And I tried to do a British accent. I'm not good at that. I don't know how it came across. That was the biggest challenge for me in this. Also, I guess like the monologues, because there's a couple at the very end where JJ has some long for me
exposition.
Exactly, just exposition dumps, which are kind of just telling a story, but it doesn't necessarily make logical sense. So that was a little bit of a challenge. But other than that, it all kind of came together pretty close. We had most of the blocking done by the first episode, first night. So it really came together pretty smoothly.
Yeah. Don't worry about the British accent, because whatever came out worked. Listening to it, because you understand what's going on here.
Exactly.
There's one guy doing multiple things and they're all just cracking you up, and nothing ever had to be perfect. It was so great to go along with that ride. It was just, everything was great about it. What was the audience react? Did you get feedback from the audience after the show?
The only feedback I had, so I had a couple friends who went, and as much as I can trust them, because obviously they're going to be really kind and nice, but they really, really enjoyed it. They liked everything. There was really no dull moment for them from what I could gather, but I got just really positive feedback. Nothing didn't work. Everything was very smooth and good. And audience feedback, I could hear the laughter when I was out there. So I was like, I think we're doing pretty good, which is nice, because there are sometimes the nerve-wracking thing obviously is we only have one shot at this. And that I think was like an added level of pressure. But as soon as the audience started laughing and they were all there, they wanted this experience. They were there for the ride. So that was just like a weight lifted off my shoulders when I heard that first like wave of laughter, which I rode to the very end.
That came, it lights up.
It did. Exactly. That's what I was like, okay, we got this. I was still like, there's still that like pre-nerve jitter you get before you take that first step out there. But it melted away pretty quickly. And it was just a blur. Like by the time I stepped out, and then the next thing I knew I was stepping off. Like this was it was just such a quick experience, but so much fun.
Were you nervous at all beforehand? Because it didn't show.
Absolutely.
You were. Yeah?
Absolutely. I was, yeah, I just sitting backstage, just kind of waiting, because there was like three spots that were a little sticky for me. Like I either like reversed the lines, or, which is not a big deal, obviously, but like I like sometimes like dropped a few, or like there was like 2 or 3 just like word patterns that the way that Greg wrote them just are the plays on standard things. Like there was join me and together we will rule the criminal empire with a fist as hard as iron, like with an iron fist, but he had to elaborate and shift it. So like in my mind there's always that like, don't screw this up, and I didn't. I think I got them all, but yes, I was very nervous, especially like I said, with it only going up once, and there's only one other person out there. It's like me and Val, with most shows you have a month to 3 months, depending on how quick it is. And by that point, everybody kind of knows the show. So if you get into trouble or whatnot, you could save, like you can, kind of tag in and like throw someone a cue or whatnot. With the truncated rehearsals, there really wasn't that chance for me to get to know Val's part that well. And like, there was a couple times in rehearsal where we were just kind of standing there and like, she had either dropped a line or I had dropped a line, and like, we kind of look at each other and it's just like, I can't help you. I don't know it right now. So that's what I was really nervous about, was if we got into a sticky place like that. Although I'm sure there have been a little bit more forgiveness from the audience, like, because they understand what the process was, but still in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want it to go perfect.
Yeah. I think the audience really appreciated what the end result was for all of the shows. You know what I mean? And I think they were very forgiving. They came along for the ride. They were very gracious. Nobody goofed up. I mean, there was no major flub anywhere or anything. I mean, the whole day, as far as I could tell, was just rocking from the beginning to the end.
Absolutely. It was just like watching, people, it felt like at the top of their craft, just putting on like a clinic as to like what these types of different genres even can be. And it was just a joy to be a part of.
I said the same thing. People at the top of their game. It was wonderful to work with them because there was such a peace, even in the midst of having to know all that. So I just want to make a note here for people who don't understand. Actors, a lot of times, it's not just a matter of memorizing lines. We tie a lot of our lines to movements, props, the timing of other people on stage. There's a lot of that involved. And in 5 days, you don't get a lot of that. It's very difficult to tie a line, especially one like you just said, where the verbiage is kind of twisted a bit. It's not what your mind is used to hearing. And so it takes a while for the brain to rewire itself. And so a challenge of 5 days for an actor is to try to incorporate all of those things. And if you're out there by yourself or close to by yourself.
Val was acting opposite a bear for the first like 5 minutes of our thing. It's like, that has to be just a surreal level of nerves that I can't imagine. And,
it's tightrope walking, baby.
Absolutely.
And you're out there for 20 minutes. Like, anything can go wrong at any point. Somebody could sneeze in the audience and throw you off as you hear something that you weren't used to hearing,
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
I had 3 costume changes. I was nervous that I had them all arranged out in the back perfectly, but I was still just nervous. Like, what if my shoe gets stuck? What if I can't get my coat on in time? And like, I missed the cue, because our cues are tied to, like, we have no leeway in the sense of there's a voiceover. We had only 30 or 40 seconds to do these types of things. So that was, luckily it all went off without a hitch, and I practiced them a couple of times, but still there was that, like, what if something happens here?
Right. No, I think even though it went well as an actor, there's a lot of pressure that you put yourself under. A lot of it. One of them is just pride, right? You just want to do a good job.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, you don't want to look like an idiot. You've got lines that somebody else wrote for you. You've got somebody else on stage who's depending upon you. People are paying to come see what you're about to do.
Oh yeah, that was in the back of my mind, where I was like, people have paid here to do this, and if I mess something up and I'm just like, oh, I got to restart, it's like, that's unacceptable. You just can't do that in a live setting, even though it is an experiment in a way. So
yeah. Would you do it again?
In a heartbeat. Absolutely. It was so much fun. And it was just being around all those people, and like the camaraderie and the creativity. And I really appreciated just how everybody wanted everyone else to succeed. I felt no ego. I felt no I want mine to be better or anything like that. It was just such a celebration of the art form, that like in its purest form. And it was, I would do this in an instant. I really hope they asked me back. I hope I didn't mess everything up. So
no, it was so nice. It was so great. I had told Aaron, and I imagine I'll say it a few more times to other people I talk to, but to me, it had a flavor of a competition without competing.
Yeah.
To watch these other artists work their work, and yet everybody wanting to do their best, right? Everybody bringing their A game. It was, nobody slacked. There weren't people who were just like mailing it in. Everybody really was on. Their game was on.
If it was a competition, I don't know if I would have enjoyed that. Like obviously the structure would have to be different because like if you came into it with random assignments and it was then like a judgment thing, I could see that being a potential recipe for disaster. You'd have to have pre-done teams and whatnot. But I don't know. I just really liked the spirit of what it was. I think that making it into a competition, there is a avenue for that, but I really liked the format for this and just kind of like, it was more of an exercise and a challenge than a competition. So.
Yeah. It's interesting. So you went first and were able to watch the other three. I went third. So I got to watch the first two and the last. And it was really cool as an actor, as a fellow actor, to watch what people were doing, their creativity, and then it helped a lot. Although it did add pressure.
That's what I would be nervous about, was the pressure. Like, I'm sure the momentum is going great, but the pressure of being like, everyone else has done well and they have not messed up. Now I have to go out there and do this. Oh, I would not have wanted to go on last.
Yeah.
That would
have
have
been
been just
ours was heavy too, at points. And it was very difficult knowing
I choked up a couple
comedy
of times
started
during
the night.
yours, so.
Yeah. No pressure there. Was there anything that you would change or add, or did you like it just as it was?
That's a good question. So I responded to the survey today, and I had to put on my thinking cap for that one. I think there's a couple of things I might have changed. One of which would have been kind of what we've been talking about, how we got to watch each other. I think that if the start time had been pushed back to like 5 or 7, and tech was still the same, I think it would have been nice for the actors or the other groups to see the other plays in a more relaxed setting, as opposed to just sitting in the back. And this is like, obviously for my own personal thing, like from an audience standpoint, what they got was amazing, but it would just be nice to see that. And I also think that what that would do is enable a full dress before everything, because we had our tech and we were able to run it a little bit during tech, but to have an additional dress rehearsal after that, I think would have benefited. Well, I don't know. Everything went great, so maybe not. But I think that would have been nice to have seen everybody else's. Also, and this is a minor nitpick, it's just I think there could have been a better communication to the audience as to what the parameters were. Meaning, like, I might be wrong. Maybe I just missed it, but I don't recall them being told like about the props or being told about the line. And maybe more things like that could always be fun. Like having even if it's like a character name that has to be the same or something like that. Because like in a play, I'm sure it's a little bit more difficult to have, like, if everybody had the same character that was required, that could be a little bit I don't know, limiting. But I think that more of that type of randomness, like a genre or maybe 2 lines or whatever, because the line thing, even I forgot about it, and I don't remember it being said at all. I couldn't tell you what it was off the top of my head. So that's something that I think that, like, more communication and that type of stuff. But other than that, everything else just worked out excellent. I did say that I had the later time slot for rehearsing, and by Friday it was getting a little tiring. Just it was a little bit much, and not that I'm a night owl in general, but still just being like coming home and then having to leave for 8 o'clock and then coming home at like 10 just felt wonky. But that's not much.
Would you rather swap them out? How would you work that, you think, yourself?
That's a good question. I don't think there's a good answer to that, because I understand that people have limitations and some people can't do things until later. So like having it be set like that makes sense. And there's no real way to fix that without making it go longer than 7 days, which then defeats the purpose. So I think that that's just a limitation of the format. And I don't think there's much you can do about it. It's just like something to note. Even then, like having like a one dark night was definitely appreciated.
Yeah, I told Aaron 7 days was perfect. If it went longer, by the end of the 7th day, I was done. I was ready for, I mean, not that everything was perfect or whatever, but mentally I was just done. And maybe it's just because of the format again itself, but that was like just the perfect time frame as far as I was peaking, kind of, sort of.
Absolutely, yeah. Anything longer would have been, either like exhausting or then like defeats the purpose of the format. Like the idea of it being only 7 days is a fun limiting challenge. And anything shorter than that, I don't know how they would make that work with, real life schedules. So,
I think I've pretty much milked the 7-day plays thing. What's on your schedule? What's coming up? What do you got things planned?
As of right now, nothing. So like I said, we're expecting our first child very soon, and it'll be here in September. So as of right now, I don't have anything else lined up, and I feel like I'm not going to be able to do anything for for a while. No, not a while, but for a good portion of time. Honestly, at this point, and it feels weird saying this in May, but I feel like the next thing I might do is the next round of 7-day plays. I believe that they're targeting April.
That's what I heard.
I think it's on the Hatbox schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can talk about that.
Yeah. I think they already released it.
Yeah. So in April of next year, fingers crossed they ask me back to this, and maybe something before then. But as of right now, I currently have nothing in the pipeline.
Dang,
how about yourself?
Man.
Do you have anything lined up?
It rains and then it pours and then there's this drought. But so I'm entering the rainy season here.
Oh, nice.
I have a commercial next week I'm doing.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and then I have going up to Gene's Playhouse for a couple of shows up there for the summer, and then I'll be involved in their Halloween thing, and then I'll be involved with their Christmas Carol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and God only knows what else. But there was a whole section of this year where I kept thinking, man, what am I doing with myself here? What am I done? Am I over? What the heck?
Clearly not. You're entering a new renaissance.
I took Aaron up on his offer because I need to do something. I was getting itchy, man. I gotta get out of the house.
Well, that's great. I'll have to come catch you in something. I don't know if I've ever seen you in anything. Like we both said, this is our first time properly meeting. So
yeah,
that'd be nice.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind working with you, man. You've got some great chops in that. Your timing is just perfect. I loved it. I appreciate you spending this hour with me. I really do.
I'm glad to do it. I saw that when you mentioned it backstage, I was like, yes, I want to do this because I have a lot to say, and I'm just like decompressing, and I just loved it. This was so much fun. I would love to have this continue and just keep on going forward. So
yeah, I loved it. I really did love it. I mean, I told Aaron, and I mean it sincerely from my heart. I really accepted it early on because he asked me as a friend, and I said, yeah, sure, of course, you're a friend. Why wouldn't I do it? But then at the end, I thought, dude, this is just a great thing to do. I loved everybody. I loved the way it went. I loved the process. And I was proud and honored to be a part of it, rather than just say, yeah, I did it because someone asked me. But it turned out to be way more than I thought.
Same. Yeah. Like I feel super lucky to have done a show. Like it just felt like just kismet or just random happenstance that I ended up in a show with Aaron. And then like it just led to this that, I don't know, felt like it feels like I know I'm saying and taking a break, but it feels like it's going to be like a big jumping off point just for like the people that I've met and know now, and just I don't know, it just built even more of a community. I feel, which is awesome.
And when you look back, and I won't drag this out here, but there were so many in something like this. There are so many potential minefields or places where it could go awry. You could get a very poor director, a terrible script, the actors who you think are good all of a sudden don't show up or whatever. But there was none of that. There was none of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was incredible from start to finish. So kudos to Aaron, man. I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
All right, brother.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
And there you go. Another great one in the tank. That one's going off to the memorial. Have a great day.